So we'll take a moment to find a comfortable position to start off the class. You can choose to lay down on your back in Shavasana, on your side in a side laying Shavasana with your knees bent and your lower arm acting as a pillow. Or you can choose a seated position, either on the floor or on a piece of furniture. Taking a moment to decide which position feels best for you right now. And then allow yourself to settle into that shape. Notice every place where your body touches down on the ground or on some other kind of support. And allow that spot, that point of contact to take your weight. Let yourself become a bit heavier, a bit more settled at each and every one of those points of contact. And once you feel grounded and fully supported, take a moment to scan through the body, starting at the top of the head and working our way down, consciously relaxing and releasing any areas where you feel like you're holding on or where you feel tightness. And starting at the top of the head, we'll soften the eyes closed or let the gaze rest on something within the room that feels calming. Releasing the muscles of the forehead and relaxing the jaw, letting the tongue fall away from the roof of the mouth. And continuing to work your way down, softening any tension around the neck, the jaw, releasing the shoulders down. Be drawing the shoulder blades together slightly to open up through the chest. And then allow your arms to hang heavy. If you're seated, making sure your hands are supported either by the ground or your legs. If you're laying down, noticing again every place where your arms touch down on the ground or maybe on your body. Let them settle into that support. Let them feel a bit more grounded. And working our way down still, releasing any tension from the low back, from the belly. Finding a sense of heaviness through both hips, equally weighted on both sides of the body. And then allowing your legs to find some heaviness. Depending on the position you've chosen, you might make contact with the ground through the upper legs and the lower legs, or just through part of the legs. Wherever those points of contact are, really allow yourself to settle into them. Settling in so deeply that you no longer have to hold on with the muscles of the legs. They can soften and release. Relaxing the quads and the hamstrings, muscles along the fronts of the shins and through the calves. And let the feet and the hands find a comfortable neutral position. Maybe the fingers and toes are slightly softly curled inwards. And from here, without trying to change it, we'll start to bring some awareness to our breathing. Noticing how the body feels as you inhale and how it feels as you exhale. Taking a moment to notice where and how the body moves as you breathe in and out. And if you do notice after your first few concentrated breaths that you're breathing a little bit more shallow or more quickly than you'd like, try drawing the next breath a little bit more deeply into the body. Imagine it traveling down the length of the spine, filling up the lungs, and then allowing the belly to rise as well. As you exhale, let the air empty back up and out. Belly softens, ribs soften. As you inhale and the lungs fill up completely, the diaphragm moves down, pushing the belly out. And as you exhale, the diaphragm moves back up, drawing the belly in as the air exits the body. And as you take these slower, deeper breaths, again, bring some awareness to where and how the body moves. Is it any different from your initial breath awareness? And now that you've started to breathe a bit more deeply and slowly, do you notice any new areas in the body that could use some conscious release, conscious relaxation? Noticing the feeling of your rib cage, upper and lower back, chest and belly. If you feel any tightness or resistance as you inhale and exhale, again, imagine consciously relaxing, releasing those areas, letting a little bit of strain leave the body with each breath out. And let's continue to breathe slow and steady, but we'll bring a little bit of movement back into the body, gently wiggling fingers and toes and noticing how that movement feels after stillness. And if you're in a position that allows for it, start to circle your ankles and your wrists. Maybe turn your head from side to side. Keep these movements really mindful. Again, tuning in for any sensations that come up as you start to move. And then we'll bring the body back to stillness. If you are laying down on your back, taking a moment to draw your knees into your chest and roll over onto whichever side of the body is more comfortable. Coming into a fetal position, drawing those knees up in towards the chest. And pausing for a moment. And if you're on your side, slowly, mindfully making your way up to a seated position, whichever one is most comfortable for you. If you are seated for the opening portion of class and you want to change the position that you're in, you're welcome to that as well. If your legs are crossed, maybe crossing them the other direction, taking a moment to release the legs by bending knees and rolling ankles if you didn't have an opportunity to do that before. And then we'll come together to find a grounded seated position, taking a moment to connect equally with both sitting bones to the ground. Sitting up nice and tall, lengthening up through the crown of the head. And softening the shoulders down. Again, here we'll let the arms be supported through the hands, letting the hands rest on something solid. And then allowing the arms to hang heavy. Take a moment to drop the right ear down towards the right shoulder and relax the left shoulder down. You can choose to stay here, or if you'd like a little bit of a deeper stretch, you can walk your left fingertips out onto the mat or onto the ground beside you. And you can also choose if you'd like to take your right hand up onto your left ear, guiding it up and over. Breathing into the left side of the neck, continuing to soften the left shoulder down and lengthen the entire length of the spine. Sitting up a little bit more tall with each breath in, and then softening the shoulder with each breath out. Releasing that side, coming all the way back up to center. And we'll switch. We'll take the left ear down towards left shoulder. Relax the right shoulder down, and then maybe walk the right fingertips out onto the mat or onto the ground beside you. You can choose to stay where you are, or if you'd like, you can lift your left hand up onto your right ear, guiding that right ear up and over, bringing length into the right side of the neck. With each inhale, finding a little bit more space in the body. And with each exhale, softening, releasing. Letting that side go, we'll come all the way back up to center once again. This time we'll drop the chin down towards the chest, lengthening the back of the neck. You can leave your arms at your sides, or if you'd like, you can interlace your fingers, placing your palms at the back of your head. If you are bringing your hands to the back of your head, draw your elbows together to spread the shoulder blades. And allow your hands to act just as a little bit of extra weight. Don't add any force to the movement. Breathing into the space between the shoulder blades and all along the spine. And then releasing, we'll come all the way back up. Let's take the hands back behind us, and we'll interlace the fingers or take hold of opposite elbows. Draw the elbows or the knuckles down and back behind us, bringing a little bit more openness through the chest. Take a couple of slow breaths here. Again, just observing how you feel in this shape. If it feels tight, if there feels like there's quite a bit of stretch where you are, you can stay there, focusing on drawing your shoulder blades together. If you feel pretty comfortable where you are and you'd like to move into a deeper variation, you can start to lift your knuckles or your elbows up behind you. Gradually, little by little, increasing the stretch, just until you find a place where you can feel it. Once you start to feel that stretch across the front of the chest or through the shoulders, pausing there and taking a few slow breaths. Remembering you can release at any time. And let's let that go. Bring the arms back around the front. We'll interlace the fingers out in front of us, turn the palms down and press them away from the body, stretching through the palms of the hands, through the fingers. If it's comfortable for you, straightening out your elbows. If it's not, you can keep them a little bit bent. Again, we want to find that place where there's just a little bit of a stretch, nothing too intense. Most often you'll feel this one in the palms of the hands, the fingers, or the wrists. Might travel up into the forearms. You might still feel it in between the shoulder blades. Being mindful of all of those areas and taking a few slow, deep breaths here, as much as it's comfortable for you, pressing away. Remembering you can always leave a bit of a bend in the elbows if it's not comfortable to have the arms straight. If it is completely comfortable to have them straight and pressed away, you can also play with moving your hands out in front of your body. Changes the way the stretch feels a little bit, so being mindful as you do it. And again, looking for a place that feels like a comfortable stretch for you. Breathing in and breathing out. Allowing the body to gradually soften and release into the shape. You can allow your gaze to be down towards the floor or maybe towards the backs of your hands if they are extended out in front of you, or somewhere out in front of your mat. And let's release that. And take a moment to roll through the wrists. And then we'll come back to stillness at center. Let's take the left hand onto the left knee and the right hand down behind or beside us. We'll press into both hands and sit up a little bit more tall. As we exhale, let's draw the right shoulder back and maybe look over that right shoulder to the wall behind us. With each inhale, press into the hands and lift up tall. And with the exhale, open the body towards the right side of the room. Doesn't have to be a very dramatic movement. And again, here we really want to focus on lengthening the spine more than twisting. Using those arms to support you in lifting up as opposed to moving deeper into the twist. And let's release. We'll inhale, coming all the way back to center, and we'll switch sides. Taking the right hand onto the right knee and the left hand back behind or beside us. As we inhale, let's press into the hands, lengthen. As we exhale, drawing the left shoulder back, looking over that left shoulder towards the back wall. Breathing in, lifting up, pressing down. Breathing out, softening, open towards the left side. And let's release. We'll come all the way back to center. From here, let's leave the left hand down beside us. We'll reach the right hand straight up towards the ceiling and then over towards the left side. Anchoring down through the right hip. Lifting up as we inhale, reaching for the ceiling, and then as we exhale, maybe hinging and folding towards the left side. A lot of times the tendency here is to let that right shoulder drop forward, closing the body off. We want to draw that right shoulder back, keeping the body open and keeping the shoulders in the same plane of movement as the hips. So we're not stacking directly over the hips, but we are moving sideways on that same sort of line. With each breath in, lengthen up. And with each breath out, soften over. And let's release. We'll reach all the way up as we inhale. As we exhale, let's drop the right hand down and extend that left arm over towards the right side. Breathing in and lifting up. Breathing out and folding. Remembering again to keep the left hip anchored down, so we're lengthening all along the left side of the body. Draw the left shoulder back so it's in line with the right shoulder and the hips. Let's release. We'll come all the way back up to center. Take a moment to roll out through the shoulders, bringing a little bit of movement into the joints. First rolling them back and then changing it up, rolling them forward. And then we'll bring the body back to stillness and let's make our way into a tabletop shape. So we'll come onto our hands and our knees on our mat. We'll have our elbows directly beneath our shoulders. Hands land wherever they comfortably do, spreading the fingers out nice and wide and gripping down through the tips of the fingers. Let the knees under the hips, about hip distance apart. And toes can be flat on the floor or they can tuck under, it's up to you. From here, we'll move through a few rounds of cat and cow. Inhaling, drawing the belly down, shoulders back, and looking forward. And then exhaling to round the spine, spread the shoulders, and look back to the knees. As we inhale, let's move into cow pose, lengthening the front of the body. And as we exhale, moving into cat pose, lengthening the back of the body. Taking your time here. Making the movement bigger or smaller as it suits you. As always, tuning into any sensations that come up as you start to move. Noticing any feeling along the length of the spine or along the front of the body. And if you do notice any areas of tension, any areas of strain, focusing your breath on those areas. Imagine drawing that breath in, sending it straight to an area of tightness, finding some space for yourself. And then as you exhale, releasing a little bit of that tension out with the breath. Let's bring it back to stillness at center. We'll press the floor away. Let's take the knees a little bit wider on the mat, just slightly wider than hip distance apart. So maybe the inside of the knee lines up with the outside of the hip. You can have your toes flat or tucked under, whatever you'd rather. And if you would imagine, there's a string with a pencil or a paintbrush hanging directly down from your belly button towards the mat. And the tip of that pencil or paintbrush is on the mat there. And we'd like to draw a circle with that pencil or paintbrush. So we'll start by moving forward. And then on an exhale, move towards the right and back. And as you inhale, move towards the left and forward. So we're drawing a clockwise circle. Exhaling right and back. Inhaling left and forward. And as you're making these circles, try to keep pressing the floor away and try to maintain a neutral spine. So a lot of times the tendency here is to drop the belly down. See if you can keep that spine neutral. Keep a small curve in the low back, but nothing too big. And keep drawing a clockwise circle on the floor in line with your breath. Finding a rhythm that works for you. Inhaling to move the body forward and exhaling to move it back. There's a lot going on in this movement. Focusing on pressing the fingertips into the floor with equal weight throughout the whole movement. Focusing on keeping the spine neutral. Natural curves in the spine, but no exaggerated curves. Pressing the floor away to keep the shoulder blades spreading. Noticing the transfer of weight. As you shift to one side, that knee gets heavier. As you shift to the other side, the other knee takes most of your weight. And at the same time as we're tuning into all those foundational aspects, notice any sensation through the hips, maybe through the pelvic floor, through the low back, through the low belly. And then continuing to hold on to all of those elements, we're going to take this circle in the other direction, now moving counterclockwise, using your inhale to go right and forward, and exhale to go left and back. And same thing, we'll press the floor away, grip down with the fingertips, find a rhythm with the breath, inhaling forward, exhaling back. Keep the low back from finding a deep sway. Tune into the transfer of your weight. And tune into sensation through the hips, knees, low back, belly. And then we'll bring it all the way back to stillness. Let's take a moment to sit back in whatever way is comfortable. And we'll roll out through the wrists. That's a lot of pressure for the wrists in that one. So you could be sitting in a kneeling position, or you could sit on the floor, whatever you'd rather. Finding a long, tall spine. And as you sit and roll the wrists, notice the sensation of your breath, of your heartbeat. Any sensation through your hands, wrists, arms. And then we'll bring it back to stillness. Let's make our way into an upright kneeling position. So we'll come onto our knees, hips stacking over knees and shoulders stacking over hips. Let's bring our hands to our low back with the fingertips pointing down, palms pressing into the sacrum, that flat triangular bone where the spine meets the hips. We'll draw the elbows towards one another to open up through the chest. That might be enough of a stretch for you. If you're already feeling some sensation across the chest, or your breathing has changed at all, your heart rate has changed at all, you might want to stay right there. If you're not feeling it just yet and you wanted to move into a deeper variation, keep drawing your elbows back towards one another, draw your shoulder blades down, and then start to press your hips forward. Again, it might just be a really small movement, doesn't have to be very big. As soon as you press your hips forward, you might start to notice some sensation along the front of the hip joints as your hip flexors extend. Again, if you feel that there's some stretching sensation there, you might want to stay where you're at. If you're not feeling it just yet and you want to take it a little bit deeper, maybe challenging your balance a little bit here, imagine lifting up through the center of the chest, so your chest is rising, and then take your gaze up towards the ceiling. Don't allow your head to fall back. Keep some control in your neck, but move the chin away from the chest so that you're able to look up towards the ceiling. As you inhale, keep lifting up through the chest, and as you exhale, press those hips forward, gradually coming into a deeper back bend. Once again, if you feel completely comfortable where you are, there's no sensation or a very minimal sensation, and you want to move to a deeper version, you can tuck your toes under and drop your hands back towards your heels. If you drop your hands back towards your heels and the sensation is too much, or you feel any tension in your low back, you might want to come back up again. Taking some time to explore what shape works best for you today, and then pausing there, breathing slowly in as you lengthen up and out as you bend. Taking one or two more slow, deep breaths here. And then we'll release slowly, slowly coming all the way back upright. You can leave your toes tucked under or untucked, and we'll sit back towards the heels. If your toes are tucked under, it's a bit more of a stretch for the lower parts of the feet, the arches and the bottoms of the toes. If your toes are untucked, you can choose to move those feet a little bit further out to the side to take more of a stretch across the front of the quads. Either way, again, we'll focus on a long, tall spine and take a moment to notice the breath, notice the heartbeat. Looking for any sensation through the arms, the shoulders, the chest, the upper back, maybe even the neck. And then from here, let's release and make our way out into child's pose. So if the toes are tucked under, we'll untuck them. You can take a moment to tap the toes on the floor or circle through ankles. And we'll take the knees a little bit wider apart. We'll let the big toes come together and we'll sit the hips back onto the heels. This is going to be a little bit more of an active child's pose if that's okay for you. If you prefer to take a passive one, that's fine as well. But if you'd like, you can walk your hands straight out towards the top of the mat, really reaching them forward, lengthening the tailbone back. If it's uncomfortable to have your arms completely straight, you can bend a little bit through the elbows. Try to release tension from the jaw, from the neck, maybe swallowing and then allowing the teeth to separate, upper and lower teeth moving away from one another. Continue to reach the fingertips forward as you draw the tailbone down and back. As you inhale, focus on the reach, and as you exhale, focus on softening the hips. And as you breathe in this pose, taking some attention to the back of the body, scanning all along the length of the spine, checking in at each rib, feeling the lungs expand, the back of the rib cage expand, and then softens as you exhale. From here, let's take the hands over towards the left side of the mat, walking them over a little bit at a time. We'll anchor down through the right hip and then reach the right fingertips away from that right hip, lengthening all along the right side of the body. Again, finding a position that feels comfortable for you, finding that edge, the place where maybe there's a little bit of strain, a little bit of tension, but nothing that you can't breathe through. Certainly no pain. And then pausing in that area of slight discomfort and taking a few slow, deep breaths. Gradually opening up as you breathe in and softening as you breathe out. If you notice after a couple of breaths that it feels more intense for you, walk your hands back towards the middle a little bit. Take some of that bend out of the body. And from here, let's take the hands all the way back through the center and then over towards the right side. Reaching that left hand away from the left hip. Sinking down through the left hip into the floor. And then again, finding length with each breath in and softness with each breath out. And slowly walking the hands all the way back to center and then back up towards the body. We'll come all the way upright, draw the knees together, and then shift the hips off to one side, extending the legs out in front of us. Take a moment here to bend through knees and bend through ankles. Bringing some movement back into those joints after long stillness and noticing how that feels in the body. One of the things that always amazes me about yoga asana is how different a pose can feel from one day to another, just depending on how you're feeling, what you've been doing the last couple days. Usually a child's pose is really comfortable and relaxing for me. Today it was really, really intense. So it's really neat to observe those differences and to know that really nothing is permanent. Tomorrow could feel completely different again. Let's bring the legs back to stillness. We'll bend the knees and place the feet onto the floor about hip distance apart. And then we'll gently shift those knees from side to side. Again, just bringing a little bit of movement back into the joints after they've been still. Noticing how that feels in your body. Noticing where you feel it. And then let's bring those legs back to stillness. We'll walk the feet in a little bit closer to the body and then allow the knees to fall open to the sides. Coming into our bound angle or Baddha Konasana, you can leave your hands back behind you and take a more relaxed, passive version of the pose. If you'd like to take a more active version, you can walk your hands further forward, sitting upright, drawing the knees down towards the ground, lengthening up through the crown of the head, finding space across the front of the chest. And if you come to the active version of the pose and you're not really feeling any sensation there, you want to take it a little bit deeper, you can walk your hands around to the front of your body, either resting them on your feet or your ankles, or maybe walking them out onto the floor in front of you and hinging forward at the hips. Wherever you are, we'll let your knees drop down towards the ground a little bit at a time. Maybe take a moment at the start of the pose to really press your feet together, find some activity through the legs. You might notice your knees lift up a little bit when you do that. Start to notice the muscles along the inner thighs, maybe the outer thighs firing up, getting a little bit warm. Press, press, press those feet together. And then relax them and feel the knees drop. Feel the body soften. And here again, as we inhale, we can focus on really filling the body up with fresh oxygen, energy, allowing the air to fill from the top down. Lungs and rib cage expand, belly rises, and then release from the bottom up. Belly softens, lungs empty, ribs soften. As you breathe in, you create a little bit more space in the body, even if it's just in the rib cage and the belly. As you breathe out, there's some softness to be found. Maybe your knees drop a little lower, maybe your hips sink a little heavier. Maybe you release a little bit through your feet, through your hands, shoulders, neck. After a few slow, deep breaths, if you notice that you have the ability to move a little deeper into the pose, feeling free to do so. If you notice that it's become more intense for you, feel free to back out a little bit, taking some of that tension off. Continue to work with the breath and with gravity to Move gradually, slowly deeper into the pose. Might not even be a physical movement. You might not notice your knees dropping down or your folds getting any deeper, but maybe it's a deeper concentration, a deeper focus on the sensation of the posture, a deeper connection with your mat at those points of contact. Taking one or two final deep breaths here. Allowing yourself to move into whatever your deepest version of the pose is. And then we'll come all the way back upright and extend the left leg out in front of us and off to the side. We'll tuck the right foot in nice and close so it's connecting with the inner left thigh. Let's flex at the left ankle so the toes are pointing straight up, or you can drawing back towards the shin. And then from here, let's place the left hand down on the left leg and then start to slide it down. Looking here for a little bit of a stretch along the inside of the left thigh or the back of the left leg. You can adjust the position of your left leg to find that. So some people find it's a little bit more intense if they move their foot a little bit wider. Usually you feel it more inside your thigh. If you have tight hamstrings, tight calves, maybe you want to have your foot a little bit closer and really focus on that stretch along the back of your leg. Whichever option you'd like is fine. Once you find the place that suits you, you can leave your right hand down, either pressing into the floor or into your right leg. Or if you'd like, you can lift that right hand up and then reach it towards the left foot for more of a stretch along the right side of the body. As we breathe in, let's focus on lifting up. And then as we breathe out, let's focus on grounding down through both hips. So if you have your left leg moved more out to the side, often what will happen is the left sitting bone will lift up off the ground. You'll be more connected through the right. See if you can gradually work that left sitting bone down towards the floor again. Nothing forceful. Using time and breath to work your way into it. This one we won't hold for quite as long as the bound angle. Taking maybe 3 or 4 more deep breaths here. Slow and steady. Inhale, exhale. And then we'll come all the way up out of any bend. And we'll take that left foot out in front of us and take a moment to bend through knee, bend through ankle. And then we'll get ready to switch sides, starting by extending the right leg out, folding the left foot in, and then adjusting the position of that right leg. Maybe taking it a little bit wider to find a stretch through the inside of the right leg. Maybe taking it more out in front to find a stretch along the back of that right leg. Wherever you are flexing at the ankle so your toes draw back or point straight up. To help keep the leg a little bit more active, protect the knee joint. And as much as you can, find that equal grounding through both hips. We'll sit up nice and tall. You can slide your right hand down your right leg if you want to. And then again, option, if you want, you can take your left hand up and then over towards the right side, finding a little bit more of a stretch along the left side of the body. Breathing in, creating a little bit more space, maybe sitting up a little bit more tall. And then breathing out, softening, connecting with the ground beneath you. Noticing if you're holding on in other areas of the body. So maybe you're finding that you're holding on through the left hip or left knee. Maybe your jaw is tight or your shoulders are up. Finding softness in the pose isn't necessarily going to be in the right leg, it might be somewhere else. Breathing in to make some space again, not necessarily in the right leg, somewhere in the body. And then breathing out to soften. Taking just a few more deep breaths here. Allowing yourself to stay focused, stay present. And then let's release. We'll come all the way back up. Let's take both legs out in front of us and we'll bend through knees, bend through ankles. Taking note of how that movement feels. Maybe one last time, taking the hands back behind us and gently shifting those knees side to side. And let's extend the feet out in front of us. We'll point the toes forward, lengthening across the top of the ankle, and then draw the toes back, lengthening along the backs of the legs. We'll alternate back and forth between those two a couple of times. And then we'll bring it back to stillness. From here, we'll make our way into a final resting pose. So whatever kind of position is the most comfortable for you, allows you to relax the most. Some options are Shavasana, laying on your back, letting your heels extend to the top corners of the mat, toes rock open to the sides, arms extend out alongside the body. If you like the feeling of laying on your back, but you have some low back pain, another good option is to bend the knees, placing the feet about mat distance apart and allowing those knees to rest against each other so that the low back is a little bit longer. There's not as much of a curve in it. Another great option for low back pain or for pregnancy is to roll onto the left side of the body. Use the left arm as a pillow and draw the knees up and in and allow the right arm to rest on your body somewhere, whether it's resting on your thigh or on your belly or on the floor, as long as that hand is connected with something so that the arm feels supported. If you prefer a seated meditation relaxation, you can choose that as well, sitting on the floor or on any kind of prop that you want to. And if there's any other relaxation pose that I haven't mentioned that you'd prefer, you can do that too. Just as long as it's a position where you're not feeling any stretch, you're not feeling any strain, your body is able to completely rest, completely pause. Once you've chosen the position that works for you, just as we did at the start of class, we'll take a moment to scan through the body, noticing any points of tension, consciously releasing and relaxing them. Letting the eyes close or letting the gaze soften. And then at each place where the body touches down on some kind of a support, acknowledge and accept that support. Really notice that it's there. Notice the feeling of the connection between the body and the support beneath it. And give yourself permission to settle into it. Give yourself permission to release. If you have been focusing on deepening or lengthening the breath, allowing the breath to even let go of any control, allow it to return to whatever rhythm comes naturally to you so that you don't need to be making any effort. The true moment of rest for the body, for the mind. Feeling free to still observe the breath. Notice it traveling in and out of the body, but without any sense of trying to make it do something that it wouldn't do on its own. And as you breathe in and the body does fill up with some fresh air, you might notice that you feel a little bit lighter along the top of the body. As you breathe out, you might notice that you can anchor down, find a bit of heaviness through the lower part of the body. As you inhale, feeling a bit more spacious. As you exhale, a bit more grounded. And without moving at first, let's bring our attention, our awareness to the tips of our fingers and our thumb. Notice where they are. Notice what they're connected with. Notice how they feel. And then really slowly start to move the thumb across the tips of the fingers. Notice what you feel here. Maybe you can feel the texture of your fingertips. Maybe you feel fingernails. Maybe you feel a sense of warmth or a sense of coolness. Noticing what draws your attention. And then start to wiggle the fingers, wiggle the thumbs. And again, notice what you feel here. Notice where you feel sensation, what it feels like. Start to circle wrists, expanding that awareness. Maybe adding some toes wiggling, rolling the ankles if that's available in the position you're in. Turning your head from side to side, all the while being aware of how these movements feel for you, where you feel them, what they feel like. Bringing the body back to stillness. If you are laying on your back, drawing knees in towards the chest and rolling over onto whichever side of the body is more comfortable. And pause for a moment there. And when you feel ready, slowly making your way up to a seated position if you're laying on your side. If you were seated and you want to change your position, feel free to do that. And then together, we'll find a grounded seat. Sit up tall and bring hands together in front of the heart, letting the shoulders soften down, connecting the fingertips and the outer edges of the palms together. I'd like to thank you for joining me and allowing me to guide you through this practice. From my light to yours, namaste.